Local military historians say he was the most decorated officer at Fort Bliss. Silva says another student realized her son was still on board. Renovations have been going on for more than a year, and the board expects once the course and restaurant are ready, the renovations will be a hole-in-one. I spoke with a man who says practically every day he stands at an intersection like this one, walks up to people's cars, and approaches drivers for money. There's quite a few families out here in Northeast El Paso that came out here to this park to bring their kids to experience the snow. The roof is caving in, what little parts that are left of this roof, and they also expect the walls to crumble. Firefighters at any station like this one across town are well prepared to treat people who've overdosed on heroin because both fire trucks and, of course, ambulances have the treatments people need. The jury has gone home for the evening after this first day of deliberation. Monsoon season is bringing in bugs from outside, but there are ways to defend yourself. But police did tell me just a few minutes ago that there is no danger to the public in connection with these suspicious deaths. The results of open records requests I filed with the city here in Socorro show there are 15 complaints for sexual harassment to help them take their grade from failing to passing. This decision could change his legacy within the Army. There are still about 6 inches of water around these pecan trees, and the mud here is really thick. I'm here with Detective Mike Baranier, and he tells me that police will be here late into the night. And can you tell us what police think happened to the victim? She also says her political asylum is now up, and she's received notice she could be deported. Guevara says the driver of the car they were in had already crashed into the guardrail here on Loop 375. You can see the metal part breaking away from the rail. Police arrest more than a dozen protesters in Ferguson, Missouri. Water doesn't come cheap in some parts of Montana Vista. If they don't get water from the city, it could cost about $65 to fill up one of these tanks.
A lot of people talk about the border, right, but not many people have been here.
Freshman Congressman Will Hurd, whose district includes part of El Paso County, is getting to know the border. He says El Paso faces different challenges because the border is just a few feet away from where people live and work. Hurd says that makes Border Patrol agents crucial to the area's safety.
They're fighting an adversary that has more money, more resources than they do, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to empower them to do their jobs.
On a tour, Border Patrol spokesperson Stu Harris pointed out areas with the most crossing traffic.
So they have a welder? They come in and with a torch?
Yep. We've had them try with blowtorches, sledgehammers.
It's not just stopping people at the border. Agents say their job means being alert.
I don't expect anything to happen, but if anything does, just stay in the vehicle and let us deal with it, okay?
And working to save people.
The smuggler brought a family of 5 into the canal right there, and we were unable to save any of them. They all drowned right there.
Harris says his department faces potential dangers from across the border every day.
People think that it's honest, hardworking people just coming over to find a job. Sometimes that's true, but not all the time.
Congressman Will Hurd says one of the things that surprised him most about this tour was seeing how many hats these Border Patrol agents have to wear. One minute they could be having to defend the border, and another minute they could be in danger themselves.
The border is actually the last line of defense, and we can do a better job. Part of that is working with our international partners and our Mexican partners to make that happen.
Hurd recently passed a bill to stabilize paychecks for Border Patrol agents who were facing cuts.
Just seeing it, the more I learn, the more I see, and the better it is for me to help up there.
He plans to take this experience back to Washington to figure out how Congress can put resources where they're needed most. Stacey Welsh, KFOX 14 News at 9.
Fearless men who jump and die.
He's like the Rambo before there was ever a Rambo.
Major Chester Garrett was a highly decorated Vietnam War veteran, a man many call a true American.
You put everything together, he's an American hero.
And the only thing many people know about Garrett is his murder more than 40 years ago. As KFOX 14 reported, Garrett's wife Lizbeth Garrett and stepson Roger Garrett were arrested in 2013, 36 years after the case went cold. This comes after Garrett's son Patrick reportedly told investigators a few years ago that Roger Garrett confessed to helping his mother kill Chester Garrett. Lizbeth Garrett was still living in El Paso at the time of the arrest, while Roger Garrett was extradited from Tennessee. These unexpected circumstances shifted attention from Garrett's life to his death. Materials one El Paso man found at a local estate sale are now showing us who Garrett really was.
I think he was just a go-getter. He was just a hard charger.
Ray considers himself a caretaker of war memorabilia and says these photos and certificates reveal Garrett had intense ambition practically all his life. The son of a Coast Guard officer, Garrett graduated from high school in Puerto Rico where his father was serving duty. He played minor league baseball for the Pulaski Cubs, a minor league team in the Chicago Cubs organization. After an arm injury, he left pro baseball to join the Army in 1960, earning more honors than many soldiers do in their lifetime.
Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star, the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Soldier's Medal.
Throughout multiple tours in Vietnam, Garrett went on to earn 3 Purple Hearts and a Distinguished Service Cross, an award second only to the Medal of Honor. Garrett was a Green Beret and a Special Forces commander in Vietnam. From November 1966 to February 1967, he received 4 distinguished honors.
What sets him apart from others is that he received these awards in a very short period of time, in 4 months.
Army certificates for the awards he earned, including the Army Commendation Medal, paint a harrowing picture of Garrett. Officers commend Garrett for putting his men's safety first, even using a single flashlight to check for booby traps, and then disarming them himself.
He was always in the action, in the midst of all the action there in Vietnam.
Based on accomplishments like this, one photo shows Army 4-star General William Westmoreland, the commander of U.S. military operations in the Vietnam War, visiting Garrett's camp.
There's bullets flying, there's incoming rounds, there's explosions, and here's a guy that's out front.
An award certificate shows Garrett rallied his men, ignored bullets flying around him, and charged at the enemy.
Completely disregarding his own safety, Captain Garrett dashed to the point of heaviest fighting to assess the situation and coordinate the defenses. So he's doing everything in his power to protect his soldiers and keep them safe. And I think as a leader, he was a leader.
After fighting in Vietnam, Garrett went to Ranger School in 1970, one of the toughest training programs in the Army, and graduated first in his class. Garrett was later stationed here at Fort Bliss, along with many other great military officers. And at the time of his death in 1977, local military historians say he was the most decorated officer at Fort Bliss. A dining hall at McGregor Range is named after the Army leader, where his accomplishments are on display for soldiers every day. Stephen Franzoni is vice president of the local Army Special Forces Association, and along with Garrett's family, he was a driving force behind the dedication.
At the end of the day, this is what he deserves.
Soldiers often train at McGregor Range before deployment. That's why Franzoni feels it's especially fitting a building there be named after Garrett.
They can look at him and see that's somebody we want to emulate. He trained hard, he was physically very fit. This is not the end of the message. I think his story can be told again and again. I think he's an example for our kids, for our soldiers.
At the time of his death, Garrett was a volunteer Little League baseball coach at Fort Bliss. In an El Paso Times article from back then, an investigator calls Garrett a Superman. It says whoever got him must have been pretty tough, probably more than one person, and says they probably took him by surprise. The article goes on to say that Garrett was stabbed several times in the back, severely beaten, and had a fractured skull. His body found in his car in the East El Paso desert. During the war, documents show Garrett consistently wrote letters home to his wife, the same woman accused of killing him.
I love you, honey. Keep praying for me, okay? I can almost see you at night when I go to sleep. Boy, do I miss you. Here he is, he's going through all this, thinking I got my wife and my kids back home. And then fast forward 10 years later.
As we reported, Garrett's stepson is serving 40 years in jail after a jury found him guilty of murder. Garrett was reportedly separated from his wife, Lizbeth Garrett, at the time of his death. Now, his wife is set to go on trial. Ray says he's working to nominate Garrett to the Army Rangers Hall of Fame. He also says Garrett's belongings could end up in a museum one day.
At the end, they need to stay together, and they will end up at a place where these places will be honored and respected, and Major Garrett will be remembered.
Based on accounts from Garrett's family and documents Ray found, Chester Garrett's goal was to become a military general, maybe even the youngest military general. Based on his accomplishments, it seems he was well on his way to achieving this goal. Stacey Welsh, KFOX 14 News at 9.
These are men, America's best.
Snow left Northeast El Pasoans driving through icy conditions. While some say they can handle it,
I drive cautiously. I used to be a truck driver, so I pretty well know how to drive in this type of weather.
TxDOT says crews are out in full force, and they're working 10 to 12-hour shifts to keep the roads clear.
We got a shift that just came in at noon. We're going to work till midnight tonight, and then we got another shift coming in at 12 midnight to 12 in the afternoon Friday.
TxDOT crews tell me keeping I-10 open is top priority.
Right now we have trucks full with salt and sand and snow plows and de-icings to keep the roads clean.
To prevent the main highways from freezing, TxDOT says crews are using a chemical de-icer to spread on busy roads like US 54 and I-10. Even with the precautions, some say they're spending the rest of the snow day at home.
Relaxing with my kids, watching movies, and drinking hot chocolate.
There's quite a few families out here in Northeast El Paso that came out here to this park to bring their kids to experience the snow. And the snow is pretty deep out here. There's enough snow to cover the top of your boots. And when you pick it up and try to build snowballs with it, it is pretty good packing snow.
Then we get to play and throw snowballs at each other.
Kids I spoke with say they hope the snow will last another day, so they can spend more time building snowmen. Is it fun? Do you wish we had it more often?
Yes.